Welcome to Let Freedom Ring. My guest this week, my friend Greg Cotreau. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So we're going to get to know Greg just a little bit with our general questions we ask every week. Where are you from and where'd you grow up?
So, born and raised Nashua, New Hampshire. We moved around a lot when I was a kid. Went to Bicentennial Elementary School for 4 years. Broad Street for a year, Birch Hill for a year, then settled down at Pennachuck, and then just stayed at Nashua High. Went to college at Daniel Webster, which is now closed for business.
Sitting there, right?
Closed
basically.
for business. just sitting there. Who knows what's happening with that? But stayed real local. Got my first job at the Nashua Boys and Girls Club.
Okay.
Stayed relatively local in Nashua. Spent maybe 6 or 8 months in Manchester, and then when I met my wife, or I met her, and we started dating at the Boys and Girls Club, and then we eventually moved to Merrimack, and now we're in Mount Vernon.
Awesome. I was a Boys and Girls Club kid too. A lot of us were.
Yeah.
It's a good place. Wrestle. I know you played basketball, and I think she was a swimmer, right?
Yeah, she coaches a synchronized swimming team there. So yeah, she did synchronized swimming. I think they now call it artistic swimming.
Yeah.
But synchronized swimming, she did that as a youngster, and then assumed role of head coach, and that's kind of how we met. I was the aquatics director, and
that's history.
Rest, as they say, is history. Yeah.
Awesome. And what's one thing that everybody should know about you?
This is a tough one. I'm not asked this often. Probably kind of weird to say, but if you want to gross me out, like, eat cream cheese, cottage cheese, sour cream, vanilla ice cream, whipped cream.
Yeah.
Can't even watch people eat that stuff. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Kind of a weird, quirky thing, I guess, but
hey, everybody's got their thing.
Yeah.
One other question, because now I just realized, looking at the agenda, I didn't put it on there, and I asked everybody because it's kind of the theme of the show. So I'm putting you a little bit on the spot here.
Sure.
What does being an American mean to you?
Ooh.
I know, it's a loaded one, and as I'm looking at this, I'm like, I didn't write it in. And I ask this every week.
Yeah. I can go so many different ways, I guess, with this. I just think the biggest thing, and I think it's the headline of your show, freedom.
Yeah.
Like, we live in a place where it's kind of almost like sink or swim, right? You work hard, you get rewarded. You don't work as hard, maybe you don't reap those benefits. There are some people that work hard and they still kind of struggle for whatever the reason is. I think, Americans typically, will help their neighbor. So I think, all of those things, I think, help the American culture.
All right. Good answer. Sorry about that. I just looking at this, I was like, wait a second. And that's a question that we ask everybody because everybody has a different answer.
Yep.
All right, we're going to move into current events. So Trump admitted, so he did this interview with Bob Woodward, who I guess is writing a book. And I don't have the exact quote, but it was along the lines that Trump admitted to playing down the true threat of COVID-19, as he kind of said, I don't want people panicking, or I want to avoid that. Has this been good that Trump did downplay this? I don't even know what the death count is right now off the top of my head, but
I think it's above 190,000 last I saw.
Okay, so quite a bit. What's your take on the president saying this back in March?
I think leaders, and me leading a basketball team over the last several years, like, I'm still learning how to be a better leader. But I think the biggest thing that people want from their leaders is the truth. So it's hurtful to him in the fact that we're in an election period and this is coming out now, the fact that he knew about this, he knew how serious it was, but told us something different.
Yeah.
So I think that could come back to kind of haunt him. And I think, he downplayed it because he didn't want there to be panic. Yeah. But I think in a lot of people, there was panic anyways.
Yep.
So I think in a pandemic like this is the first time that we've ever kind of lived this, right? I think there's going to be panic no matter what. You may as well be truthful and say, hey, we're going to get through it together. These are the things that we're going to do, and have a plan. And, it's it has seemed apparent since day one that he hasn't really had much of a plan.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think the other problem with what Trump did was early on he called it a Democratic hoax and downplayed it all the way. And then, it took him a long time to admit it was serious. But it also caused division because his supporters were like, this is not a big deal. This is not a big deal. We're still fighting with people over masks.
Yep.
And a lot of the people you fight with masks with generally are your Trump supporting people. So I think if anything, it continued to cause division when this is something we shouldn't be divided on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to beat it, you've seen it with other countries, you band together, everybody's rowing in the same direction, you get through it. And I feel like here, I think in New Hampshire for the most part, and I don't know if you'd agree or not, but I think in New Hampshire we've mostly rowed together in the same direction, and I think our numbers kind of prove that. You look at other parts of the country, you've got some people doing it, some people doing the opposite. Like they're going kind of their own way. They need to be kind of led to all get to the same end goal, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. And talking about that coming together, I mean, tomorrow is the 19th anniversary of 9/11. Talk about something that brought the whole country together. I felt like this was another one of those moments where I wish we kind of responded the same way. And I think you're right. New Hampshire did pretty well. And I think Governor Sununu, I was very critical of him early on, but I think he actually did a really good job.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I mean, there was some policy stuff that maybe, I don't see eye to eye, with him on, but I think in regards to handling the pandemic, I think he did about as good as you can do, and he continues to, lead the way that we need him to. So
I honestly do think he's earned re-election, me personally, and I generally don't vote that way, but. All right, so we got wildfires going on in California and Oregon, I believe. Kind of came out that it has been from a gender reveal party where they used a pyrotechnic device at the El Dorado Ranch. By Monday, it already burned 7,300 acres. What's your take on that? I'm seeing these memes that are like wild about this because it's like the gender reveals have gotten out of control.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't mean to say anything like super controversial, and if I offend anybody out there, I'm sorry. But I kind of think that gender reveals are dumb in a way. I mean, when my wife and I had kids, we decided, hey, we're not even going to find out the sex of the baby, because I think there are so many different things that aren't like a pure secret. Mm-hmm. Like things get out there. You can't be surprised by much anymore in this day and age, especially with social media and everything else. By not knowing the sex of your baby, I think that's like the greatest surprise that you can have. But getting back, I guess, to the question at hand, I think those people should be held accountable, and I think that they should be fined, and I think they should have to help pay for some of the damage that they've caused as a result of that.
These wildfires out there have totally gotten out of control. It's every year at this point. It feels like.
But climate change doesn't exist, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're seeing record hurricanes and everything. Another thing that the president ran on. So I think climate change, you have kids. I have a niece and nephew. We want to leave this planet better for them, and they're going to want to leave it better for their kids. And it feels like the world's not doing that, you know? So, yeah, horrible situation. Gender reveals, I mean, my sister-in-law did one for the family one time. She knew what the baby was. She made, like, cupcakes that we bit into them, and so it was not not blowing stuff up.
Yeah, and I've seen some really creative ones. Like, I saw one of my friends from Pennachuck and Natural High, Tori, she had one where her husband like dropped little notes around, and it was like kind of like a scavenger hunt to get to like where like drop a note like on the bed, which would then lead you to the coffee table, which would lead you to the porch, and then eventually it led her to where the gender reveal would take place. So I've seen a lot of clever ones, and I don't knock anybody for them. They're just not.
The best one I ever saw was when they threw the pitch to the guy, and he took the pitch. He didn't even swing at it. But yeah, they are getting a little crazy, especially if this is happening. Another controversial thing. You said you see the Tiger King?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're probably familiar with Carol Baskins, maybe one of the most hated women in the country right now.
She definitely did it.
I do believe that, and she's going to be on Dancing with the Stars. Any take on that? I mean, are they that desperate for ratings?
That was going to be my comment. They must be desperate because there's a ton of other people that I would think would be out for that. I'm a little interested in the timing, right? Because Tiger King, like the craze of that was like around this time last year.
March. It's actually March.
Oh, was it just that short?
It was
ago?
at the beginning of COVID. Like that's what everybody was doing in lockdown.
Been in lockdown so long. Like, I can't
it
even
feels like
remember.
It was a year ago,
it feels like it's been forever. Maybe it's just due to the timing, in regards to when they release it. Like I feel like Tiger King, that's so gone out of my memory now.
Yeah.
Now that I'm starting to hear that, and then the guy's trying to get free, right?
Yeah.
So.
I think he's been beaten, it sounds like, too, since he's been there. I thought it was controversial because most people do believe that she murdered her husband. Now, she's never been convicted. I don't even think she's ever been brought in, or maybe once or whatever. So I think it's going to be big ratings because people, they hate her, but they're going to want to watch. And they're going to want to watch her lose. They're going to hope she does bad, So
yeah. I mean, my thing is, like, can she really dance? Like, I don't know. Like,
I doubt it.
I'm more curious about that, I think, than anything else. But yeah, I think it'll be good ratings. Maybe that's not a show that I typically follow.
No, I've never seen it.
But maybe I'll tune in just to see the first episode, just to see kind of where how it's presented, and then kind of go from there.
And I will say to them, they can't have people there watching, I'm sure. So they're probably thinking, what can we do that's going to be outside the box?
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with it, but neither here nor there. Moving into politics, bringing up President Trump's interview with Bob Woodward again. Trump, and again, the exact quote, I'd rather not even repeat it, but Trump does not believe because of his privilege or upbringing, he has a responsibility to understand the anger and pain felt by black Americans. This is coming from the President of the United States. And when you're the president, you represent everybody. Any takeaway that he feels that way?
I mean, I think as a leader, you should feel the pain and hurt of everybody.
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't just be, hey, because I was brought up this way, I don't feel the pain. I think the biggest takeaway for me on that is understanding somebody's pain and what they're going through takes effort on your part.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to go to them, you've got to talk to them, and you've got to ask questions, uncover hidden things that they may not be saying.
Yeah. And
trying to figure out kind of what makes people tick. And I think it's an effort thing. I think he maybe it's for whatever reason he didn't want to put in the work. I don't know how things have kind of gone. I know he's obviously been in the public eye our whole lives.
Yeah.
But at Trump Tower, when he's a businessman, like, I don't know how he treated his employees, or did he get to know people on that level? I don't know, but I think effort goes a long way, and I think empathy too. And I don't know if he has that. It's kind of proven that he doesn't really have that empathy skill. He's more kind of, he runs the country almost like a cutthroat business leader would.
Yeah.
For good, I mean, there have been some good things, like the economy was doing pretty okay until the pandemic hit. But that's probably because he's running the country like a businessman, not like a human being that has feelings and everything else.
I thought he got a lot of credit too for an economy that was already going up.
I agree. Yeah, I think he took what Obama and Biden built on. Yeah. Like it was clear that they had the worst recession they came into it and they had to recover, and I think it was booming for them, and then maybe a couple of the trade deals with Trump maybe helped, maybe didn't help. You don't really know.
It's not that he wasn't hurting it.
He didn't ruin it when he first came in. Let's say it that way, I guess.
And there's a famous quote that says, when the economy is doing poorly, the president gets too much of the blame. When the economy is doing good, the president gets too much of the credit, because it's not just the president what's causing the economy. I just didn't really like what he said. It's not surprising to me. he is what he is.
Yeah.
So, a lot of these things that were said in the Bob Woodward interview shouldn't be shocking to anybody. We knew he was lying to us. We know how he feels about African Americans. We know how he is. He lacks empathy. So, it's just an interesting, not very shocking.
No.
And something you brought to my attention, Joe Exotic, again, we're kind of bringing this back to what we just talked about, Carol Baskins.
Yeah.
He formally has asked for a pardon. Now, I had tweeted President Trump about
a lot,
100 times,
yeah.
asking for it. He didn't respond. You think Joe ends up with a pardon? Is Trump crazy enough of a president to say, "Will this help with my election? I'll pardon him"?
Yeah, it's really tough to say. Like, does Joe Exotic have that much of a following that it would help? I don't know.
Do more people hate him than like him?
I don't. I'll tell you this. Like, I didn't care too much for the show.
Yeah.
I watched the whole thing. It was like watching that show to me was like driving down the highway and seeing a car accident.
Yeah, and
you can't stop but slow your car down and watch.
Yeah.
I think what that show did for me is it really made me feel better about my own life and my own personal situation. I think than anything else. But push comes to shove, did he really put a hit out on Carol? I don't know. What he did with the animals, is that really worth 22 years in prison?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think he's a horrible human being. I think Carol's a horrible human being. But I do think it's funny that we're even having this conversation.
I can't agree more. I can't agree more.
That's how ridiculous things have gotten in the United States.
Yeah.
All right, last question in politics. It's getting close. I think we're less than 2 months away, which I remember thinking about this election when 2016 happened and going, nothing's really changed all that much. We have another established Dem. No one really sweeping us off our feet. At least I don't think. Who wins, Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
That's a tough one. I mean, I know who I'm going to vote for. But I think a lot of people are upset with how the pandemic has gone.
Yeah.
I know for high school sports, those really just kind of started this week. I know Wyndham had an outbreak of cases. I think they had 16 cases, so they suspended tryouts and everything. For the time being. I think a lot's going to depend on how the pandemic kind of goes from here to March. I mean to November. I think if a vaccine becomes available before then, it probably helps him. I'll say Biden wins.
Okay. The NFL playing, if we would have lost the NFL, I could have seen that. I would have been like, he's done. The NFL might actually help him, and he apparently hates the NFL. But the other thing, interesting you bring up Wyndham because we're talking locally. Did you see who tested positive for COVID?
Mayor of Nashua, yeah.
Mayor of Nashua, and many people in City Hall. Which is concerning because Nashua is pretty strict as it is already.
Yeah.
I think they're the only city
that requires a mask mandate, right?
So I wonder how the mayor responds to himself getting it. Are we going to see more restrictions in Nashua?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I mean, I was having this conversation with my brother earlier today, actually. I think it's clear that this pandemic's not going away anytime soon. I kind of feel like it's time that we need to recognize that, and we need to start to learn how to live with it a little bit. Yeah. I mean, we can't stay in our homes forever. We still got to wear masks. We still got to socially distance. But at the same point, like, it's clear this thing's not going away. And how long can we continue to hold it off at like an arm's length?
Yeah, I mean, things have changed so much since, I remember in March and April and into May, just not leaving at all and just being like, how long are we supposed to do this? And I think we've come a long way since then.
Yeah.
But people are going to get this. It's going to continue to happen. But, we're almost hitting where Fauci predicted because he said about 200,000 deaths. By this time, we're almost there. Don't want to see anybody pass away from COVID, but at the same time, we're going to have to learn to live with this.
Yep.
And we're both working from home.
Yep. Right.
That's a big place. Office buildings that don't have to be there, they don't be there.
Right.
Yep. But all right, let's get to the fan questions here. You got a couple.
Cool.
From Jared Dumoulin, former guest of the show. Does he feel slighted that LeBron guaranteed not 1, not 2 or 3, not 4, not 6, but 7 championships, when in reality it was only 2?
So do I feel slighted? So I think that whole celebration really was for the Miami Heat fan base, and I'm a big Miami Heat guy. I think it was really for their fan base to try to get excited. I mean, I think, you sign LeBron, you sign Chris Bosh, you're selling out season tickets no matter what you do. But I think that was kind of a rallying cry to, get more excitement and kind of build a buzz. I wouldn't say that I feel slighted. I think it was incredible that, they were able to make 4 straight, the 4 years that LeBron was there. Losing that first one, it's inexcusable. I don't know how Miami loses to Dallas in that first one. I don't necessarily feel slighted though, because they did go back to back. And if you look back in NBA history, like the Warriors went back to back, the Lakers in the early 2010s went back to back.
I think the Lakers won 3, right? 3 in a row.
In the early 2010s, I think it was 2009, 2010. Kobe won back to back. But when they had Shaq, the last time before that, it was a three-peat, and then the Bulls had a three-peat, and then obviously you had the Celtics, dynasty in the the 60s and 70s where they won, I think, 8 straight. But it's really, really hard to win back to back.
Yeah.
Had they won 1, then maybe I'd feel slighted. But they did go back to back. I think if you look at LeBron, like I'm not a huge LeBron. I mean, I'm a LeBron fan. I'm not a huge LeBron guy. When he was with Miami, obviously I was a huge LeBron guy. But I mean, you look at all those teams that he's lost to.
They're pretty good.
Maybe he's the best player on the floor.
Yeah.
But with the exception of that Dallas team, it's hard to say that Miami or Cleveland or whatever team he was on at the time was the best all-around team. I mean, those Spurs teams were really, really, really good. Obviously, the Warriors were unreal. It's like a video game. Yeah. It's like a video game team.
Yeah, LeBron gets a lot. Some of this in his younger days, he's still getting at. No one's ever going to let go of the decision, ever.
Nope.
Which brings me to another question, because you mentioned you're a Miami Heat fan. Now, grew up in New England. How did you become a Miami Heat fan?
So that's a good question. I have a couple good stories, I guess I could tell you. So back when I was young, I think Miami became a franchise in '88. I was 6. So back then I wasn't really paying attention to too much basketball. I was more on the playground and doing things that 6-year-olds do. But I saw their logo. I said, "Hey, that's kind of a neat logo."
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is a neat one.
And then mid '90s come. Bird's gone, McHale's gone, Parrish is gone. It was before Pierce and Antoine Walker. Celtics were not very good. But Miami they had Tim Hardaway, they had Alonzo Mourning, they had a really, really, really good team. And I think it was really Tim Hardaway and Alonzo Mourning that kind of got me in the door. And then, they advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals a couple times. I remember, Game 5. I don't know if it was game 5 game series or a 7-game series, but they played the Knicks, and Allen Houston hits this ridiculous shot almost at the buzzer to knock them out. I remember, trying to throw my TV out the window as a 10-year-old. I was pretty upset about that. And then I get to college, right? So I think it's 2003. At Daniel Webster, I was a sports management major. We went down as a sports management, organization. We went down to Sunrise, Florida, and we worked the 2003 NHL All-Star Game down in Sunrise, Florida. So our advisor, Sunrise is just a hop, skip, and a jump away from Miami. Our school advisor at the time, Doc Schwartz, hey Doc, he was able to get us a tour of American Airlines Arena.
Okay.
So we're going through this tour, and then we all kind of chipped in. We got tickets for the game that night. I remember they played Indiana. They played the Pacers, and we're on the court. Austin Crozier is warming up. So I thought that was kind of cool. I I was talking to the guy that was doing the tour as we were kind of going through, telling him how big of a fan that I was. You know, that's my team, even though I'm from the New England. I love the Celtics, but I would prefer like Miami over the Celtics, just based on where the teams were at the time, I guess.
Yeah.
So he's like, you know what? We'll see how it goes. But what I'd love to do is get your group upgraded from the seats that you guys have to floor seats.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to come find you guys, and we're going to move you down to the floor.
Oh, wow.
So halftime comes, found us. We were virtually courtside. Virtually courtside. And then he's like, I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to give you tickets for the game 2 nights from now. So he just gave us free tickets. We were able to go back.
Oh, wow.
And then he also gave me his card, and he's like, anytime that you're down here, call me and we'll hook you up. So it was either a year later, it was either 2004 or 2005. I went with my brother, his wife, my girlfriend at the time. We went down to Miami on vacation. I hit him up like he told me to. He remembered me from, and he's like, yeah, just buy balcony seats.
Yeah.
And I'll come find you, and I'll move you down just like I did before.
That's awesome.
So, like, kid you not, we walk in, like, he's waiting at our seats for us. He's like, tell me where your seats are, I'll come get you. He came and got us and brought us back down to courtside. So how I was treated when we were down there, like, I'm a fan for life.
Nice. No, that's awesome. Yeah, I remember in 2010 how excited you were when they signed all those guys.
Yeah.
Going through your Facebook feed, I'm like, I know Greg's happy.
Yeah.
We got a few more fan questions from Michelle Carrier. First, Michelle's daughter, Jess.
Yep.
Shout out to Jess. She wanted to have her name said on the show. Do you think the season happens? Will it be a season for the girls' basketball team?
So I think a lot will depend on how things go in the fall. I'm always a glass half full kind of guy, so I would say, yeah, there will be a season. It may not be the same type of season that we're used to or that we would want, but I think that they're going to try to do something.
Okay.
Maybe it's a situation where we play, there's 5 or 6 schools in the greater Manchester area within a 10-15 minute drive. Maybe it's the schedule changes and we only play those teams. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a situation where home team can only have fans, you can't bring away fans. Maybe it's a situation where there are no fans at all.
Yeah.
Because it's indoors. I think the schools are going to do whatever they can, to try to make it happen. And I think if we all continue to do what we've been doing, wearing masks, socially distancing, doing all of those things, I think we give ourselves a shooter's chance to have a season. Because
I know in Merrimack they voted the football program is going to happen. I don't know who they're playing. I don't know what. That's the only school I know that's having any fall sports. I just haven't looked into it. So hopefully it does. Her next question, how do you think the team will do?
So this is kind of tough to answer. Just for the simple fact that in years past, going into the fall, we would have played in a summer league.
Yeah.
And we would have played in 2 tournaments at a college campus. So we would have had some camaraderie, some chemistry, and we would have been able to kind of see what it is that we need to work on, how do the pieces fit together. We would have been able to kind of work out some of those kinks over the summer. And in the fall, we'd play in a fall ball league down in Mass. Can't do any of those things.
Yeah.
We have been fortunate enough to have some open workouts that, a lot of my core kids have been coming to. Some of our athletes that might not be like basketball kids, we haven't seen some of those kids, but I would expect that they're coming back to play. Based on how last season ended, the pieces that I know that we still have, I know we graduated a lot, but we had a lot of kids that were kind of coming up, and they were trying to kind of showcase and prove that they belong, and they could do some good things. I think we can be sneaky good.
All right.
I think we could be sneaky good. I mean, again, a lot's going to depend on what the schedule looks like. If we're only playing Manchester teams, you've got a D2 team, you've got a D2 team, you've got a couple of D4 teams that are lower in enrollment. If we end up playing those teams, you don't know what will happen because you're not comparing apples to apples. There's way more kids at Memorial than at a school like Derryfield, for example.
Oh yeah, big time.
So a lot will depend on what the schedule looks like, but I think I can promise you this: our team is gonna be competitive. They're gonna fight. They're gonna get better, and they're gonna work hard every single day.
And kids need that. High school sports, middle school sports, keeps them out of trouble, gives them something to do. It's important. So I hope that seasons do happen. However they look, they need something. Yeah. They need that.
And you mentioned Jess Carrier's name. I mean, we have, great leadership at the top of our program. Jess Carrier, Ryan Moran, a couple of juniors in Elizabeth Barrientos and Erin McCoy. Like, we have lots of great leaders that I think are also, basketball is not just, or sports in general is just not wins and losses.
Yeah.
It's how do you help prepare these kids for the real world after high school?
Yeah.
How do you prepare them for college? If they're not going to college, how do you prepare them for whatever they're going to do next? To me, like, that's always, the most important part. The basketball stuff comes secondary. So I think in that regard, we're way good.
Couldn't agree more with that. All right, last night we got about 24 minutes. Last night, crazy Celtics Raptors game. Do you think the Celtics should have pulled that off? Was there a few fouls that were missed? I felt like I don't know. The reffing's never great in the NBA.
Yeah, I think there were a couple calls that didn't happen that were kind of suspect, but I think in a game of that magnitude, I think the refs wanted to kind of let the players dictate who wins.
Yeah,
they didn't want to decide the game, but there were a couple controversial things that kind of happened. Kemba getting I thought he was fouled with like 0.5 left or whatever it was when he went to the basket. They said no call.
That was frustrating. As a fan watching, that's so frustrating.
I mean, he should have been at the line shooting 2, in my opinion. But even before that, maybe there were 30 seconds left. I forget exactly the time that was on the clock, but you've got Nick Nurse, the coach of the Raptors, kind of in the corner, like in a position where his hands are up. He's wearing like a grayish green polo, and Jason Tatum passes the ball to him. Yeah. Jaylen Brown was also in the corner, but a few steps away.
Yeah.
Like,
a little shady.
Coach can't be on the court. You got to stay in your box. Like, what are you doing?
It was phenomenal, though. I hope the Celtics take it tomorrow. Quickly, excited for the NFL to return. Returns tonight.
Yeah, I'm not a big NFL guy.
Okay. All right. Any prediction for the season?
Yeah, I'm curious to see how the Pats do without Brady.
Okay.
I'm not the biggest Brady guy. I've never really been the biggest Brady guy. I'm more of a Drew Bledsoe guy. I felt like when Brady came, like, the Pats kind of, it was like a dying dog. Like, they brought Bledsoe to the woodshed and they shot and killed him off, and then all of a sudden it was Brady's turn.
He did get his last moment of glory, though, against the Steelers in that AFC Championship.
He did, and I don't think they win that game without him. But I'm excited to see what Cam does. He's a different type of leader. I think with Brady, you've got more of an intense kind of guy.
Yeah.
I think with Cam, you've got a laid back, like, fun, kind of loose. He's going to keep everybody, serious but not too serious. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. I think Brady going down to Tampa, I think that division's loaded. You've got Matt Ryan, you've got Drew Brees.
My God.
Like, those are going to be some knockdown, drag out.
I can't wait to see the Brees Brady battles. So.
And they got to play twice because they're all in the same division. So
my prediction is they split that. It's going to be split between Tampa and New Orleans.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite sports moments?
So I think my favorite sport moment, it's got to be 2004 when the Sox won the World Series, breaking that drought. I mean, I think, pinpointing to an exact moment, I think that steal David Roberts had, stealing second. Like, I think from that point on, like, I think as a Sox fan, you knew, like, destiny was going to kind of reign supreme and take them the rest of the way after what happened in 2003 with Grady Little and leaving, he left Pedro in. And
Matsui gets the big hit, I believe.
Yeah, and then Aaron Boone hits the walk-off in extras.
That was brutal. I was at Hooters and it got trashed that night. People were taking, the little stools they had. People were just walking out with them.
Yeah. So I think that was a good moment. I think Celtics winning in 2008, Garnett's
Anything's
interview at the end was outstanding. Yeah, I would say probably those two kind of stick out the most for me, I'd say.
Okay. All right, pop culture. Just a shout out, Rick Moranis was in a commercial. First time we've seen him in forever.
Didn't his wife have cancer? Is that why he...
So she passed away, and he gave up acting to raise the kids.
That's crazy.
So it was just
good for him.
Good to see him.
Yeah.
For whatever the commercial was, it was with Ryan Reynolds.
Was it a Mint? I think it was a Mint commercial.
Is that what? I don't even know what they do.
Like, I think Mint is a company where you can kind of track your finances.
Oh, okay.
and see if like you're on track.
Yeah.
They can link to your bank accounts, and they take a look at your spending and budgeting and all that stuff. But yeah, that was incredible. And he's like, "Why am I here?" He's like, "I'm just a big fan." He's like, "Oh, is that all?"
Yeah.
It was hysterical.
Yeah, good to see him. I'd love to see him do something.
I heard recently though, after that they're going to reenact or have another Honey, I Shrunk the Movie or Honey, I Shrunk the Kids type movie.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
It's going to be like a spin-off. I don't know who else is involved. I don't know if it's confirmed, but that's the rumor on the street that I'm hearing.
Love that movie. Well, he did Little Giants, Ghostbusters, obviously.
Ghostbusters, yes.
Little Shop of Horrors. He did a lot. So good to see him on there. Last night, big fan of Rusev, now going by Miro, has joined All Elite Wrestling after being let go by WWE. Good to see him. Do you think he'll fit in All Elite?
Yeah, I think he'll fit in. I'm a little surprised because I thought he was just going to do his Twitch thing.
Yeah.
Like I thought he was what I had heard is he was completely out. He was done wrestling. He was no longer going to be in it. But I don't know if he was just saying that to make the surprise come into AEW. Because when you leave WWE now, like everybody knows if you were good in WWE, the likelihood of you landing in AEW is probably pretty strong. I do think it's interesting that Lana is still in WWE, and he's there. Obviously, married couple in real life. And
she was not. He was completely over with the audience, and Lana never has connected with the audience. But they let him go, and Lana's still there.
That to me that doesn't make any sense. So it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic works. It was similar to me when Dean Ambrose left and became Jon Moxley, went over there, and then you had Renee Young. Who was still in WWE, but she, I think, has recently left.
I think she got a contract with Fox.
Yeah. Because I was thinking maybe she would go there, too, to be with Moxley. But
I wouldn't be surprised if she makes like an appearance here and there.
Yeah.
But I don't think she... I mean, she's not from the wrestling world originally.
Right. She was a sportscaster kind of person, right?
Yeah. So, very interesting. I think he'll do well. I think they dropped the ball with him. I like the promo, how he said, they say you can grab the brass ring. That's not true.
Yeah.
You go to any arena, and they're chanting Rusev Day.
Even when he was a bad guy.
Yeah. He was absolutely loved. And he was always kind of over, and I feel like they punished him after they had split him and Lana up on the show, and then they showed their engagement pictures. And ever since then... and I guess there was a time he cut his hair and didn't tell them or something like that. I felt like they were just always out to get him after that. Were you a Walking Dead fan?
Yes.
So it's coming to an end in 2021. Is it time to put it down? Is it about that time?
I think for that particular series, probably. I mean, I think what I read is like the next season is going to be the last one, but it's going to be huge. Like I think they have like 24, 26 episodes, something like that. So I think they're going to split it across 2 years. So I think, we'll see the last of it in 2022. But I also heard that they're going to do another spin-off. Like they've got Fear the Walking Dead. They had another one, I think, that I don't know if it's still going on. But I heard that there's going to be a spin-off with Norman Reedus and McBride.
Yeah.
And they were going to kind of do a spin-off and a deep dive onto those two characters. So I don't think we've heard the last of the characters. It's just going to take a different form.
Yeah, so I was a big fan for a while, and it's funny because I said earlier that Cobra Kai was the first show I got into since The Office. That's not true. It was The Walking Dead. I've been so far removed from The Walking Dead that I actually forgot how much of a fan I used to be of The Walking Dead. And for me, season 5 was starting to be when they were starting to piss me off. They spent that whole season looking for Beth. They find her in the hospital. She gets killed.
Killed right away.
And then we come back for the rest of the season. They kick off, the mid-season premiere, and they kill Tyrese. And I go, why? You guys are just killing characters to kill them. And then, admittedly, the Glenn spoiler that I put on Facebook and became the biggest heel on Facebook for a long time. Didn't realize at the time, didn't think twice about what I was doing.
Yeah.
I just assumed everybody watched things in real time because I'm like obsessed with real time. I don't like to. I have a hard time going back.
Mm-hmm.
They did a lot of things that hurt the show.
Yeah,
I think, and a lot of shows have done that, but they waited longer, not in the 5th season, to start just killing everybody off. That was my one critique. You killed off too many characters that we were invested in.
Yeah, I think the villain, I forget her name because it's been so long since the show's been on. The villain right now that's leading the Whispers.
I can picture her right in my head. I just don't know the name. Yeah.
I think she's a really, really good villain. She kind of creeps me out. I don't think we've seen a villain like with Negan. He was a villain, and I don't even know if you kind of consider him a villain now. But when he first made his appearance,
big
like
time.
He was a villain, but he was so funny that it was hard to kind of hate him.
Yeah.
I would say the leader of the Whisperers right now, and then maybe the governor. Those were probably the two best villains that I think we've seen on that show.
Well, Negan too, though. Like, if you took it from Negan's people's point of view, Rick and his crew would have been
the villains.
They killed them in their sleep.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I'm looking forward to the Rick Grimes movies. I'll watch those. But I gave up. Probably last season, I was like, I've been so committed to this, but you know what? I can't do it anymore.
You got to finish it off now, though. You gotta.
Well, I'll probably have to catch up on some things.
Yeah.
I did like. There was some stuff in these later seasons that I liked when like Rick disappears, and then they speed up like 5 or 6 years. I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I'll have to watch. That has been one of my favorite shows. They made me angry one too many times, and I had to walk away. But it is what it is.
Yep.
What are your top 5 movies?
Ooh, this is a tough one too. There's so many good ones out there. I'm a big Remember the Titans fan.
Yes, love it.
I think that's got to be a classic. Going deep into my childhood, Lion King, the original Lion King. I thought that was great. I still watch it to this day. I love sharing it with my kids. I'd probably throw Scarface on that list.
I love Scarface.
I think that's a good one. You mentioned Ghostbusters earlier with Rick Moranis. I think that's an all-time classic. And then this is more of a trilogy, so I'd package all 3 of these up, but the Lord of the Rings series.
Okay.
I think I was super into those.
So it probably judged me a little bit.
Yeah.
Never seen any of them.
None of them.
I remember they coming out with their debut in like 2001 or something.
It was
like
early
that.
2000s, yeah.
And I just never, ever had any interest in seeing them. But maybe I should.
Yeah, I mean, if you like kind of old time type movies, like I think you could like it. Admittedly,
when people refer to that as the trilogy too, I sort of take offense to it because there's only one. The trilogy is Star Wars. If you're gonna say.
And admittedly, I've never watched a Star Wars.
Movie. Okay. Well, maybe we'll have to make a deal
here.
We'll
have to switch.
I like it. All right. So I will watch Lord of the Rings and get back to you. Let you know what I think.
All right. Fair enough.
All right. What are your top 5 all-time TV shows?
We just talked about Walking Dead. I throw that on the list. It's just so long, and I've been watching it all along. It's hard to not mention it. I loved Breaking Bad. I think that was a great show.
I fell off on it. And then I never went back, and I regret it. Maybe at some point I should, but I know how it ends because I did watch the last episode.
Right. So there's 2. I like The Big Bang Theory. Add some comedy in there. That was a good one. I was kind of sad to see that one come to an end. it's going to be kind of weird to say, but, getting back to like the early, 2000s when we were in high school and college, we were young enough to relate. So I watched all those movies or all those shows then, and I actually have the series, all the series, but One Tree Hill. I thought that was a pretty cool show.
I do remember watching some of that.
So how many did they give you now? 3 or 4?
I think 4.
4. How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
That was another good one.
Now, speaking of that, so we're gonna have to ask this question. What did you think of the ending of that show?
It left me wanting more.
Okay. Like them as like older?
Yeah, I thought the way that they ended it, that they would spin off maybe another series, but that never came to be. So I think there are some, and I think there's a lot that can be said for shows or movies that just end with leaving you with questions.
Yeah.
Like, what really happens after
like Sopranos, Cut to Black?
I've never seen Sopranos. That's another one.
You'd probably love it.
Yeah.
If you ever seen it. I did have a huge issue with the series finale.
You did?
Because I felt cheated.
Yeah.
I felt cheated.
I can see that, yeah.
You spend, how many years was it? They came out in 2005?
7, maybe?
I thought it was like 9 years.
No? Maybe it was more.
I can't remember when it came. I think it was 2005, could be, maybe 2006. I don't know. I'm sure someone will fact check me.
Yeah.
But the whole time wanted to get to this point of when do we get to start to know who the mother is, right?
Yeah.
So you spend all this time doing it, and then you finally get to the final season, and she gets introduced, and they're spending all this time on Barney and Robin's wedding.
Yep.
Just to find out in the last episode that it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And at that point in the show, though, Ted and Robin really, I don't know, I didn't see that connection anymore between them.
Yeah.
And then the whole point of the show was that he had a crush on Robin and wanted to get back with her. Like,
yeah.
I leave it at that. Someone did edit it on YouTube, so they cut that out, and it's just just him getting with the mother.
Yeah.
But I remember I was watching my brother, and I remember just sitting there going like,
yeah,
come on, So, but still one all-time. This is one of my all-time favorite shows.
It's got to be in that list, I think.
All right, we're gonna go into blank versus blank. This is my favorite segment of the show. I'm gonna give you 2 words, 2 things, 2 people. You got to pick one and tell me why.
Okay.
The first one, and I hope you say the right answer. Scottie Pippen or Michael Jordan?
I gotta go. I'm not a Jordan guy. Never been a Jordan guy. I'll go Scottie Pippen.
All right. Anytime you want to come back on the show, just let me know.
Yeah, and I think there's no Michael Jordan without Scottie Pippen. I think.
Thank you.
I think Jordan said it himself, like in that ESPN special, that if there was no Scottie Pippen, I wouldn't have been able to do the things that I was able to do. So.
See, I think a lot of people neglect that, and they just look at the Jordan legacy. But he didn't, Scottie never. I said Scottie was a role player, but he was such an important part of that.
Yeah.
You don't always have to be the star to be maybe the important player on the team, the most important player on the team.
But after Jordan left, though, and it was Pippen's team, there was one thing that, it was in that series, too, that he did that rubbed me the wrong way. Like, they asked him to go back into the game, and he refused.
I actually forgot about it till watching The Last Dance.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, Scottie.
Yeah.
Oh, Scottie.
And I bet you, it ended up working out okay. Like, they ran a play for Tony Kukoc. He hits the game winner.
Yep.
But Scottie was salty after that.
Well, I think he had a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah.
That he had to lead this team once Jordan left. And maybe you could say he wasn't a great leader. I don't know. Scottie Pippen was always my favorite player growing up. But I will say The Last Dance saved me partly during the lockdown.
Yeah.
Because every Sunday I was like, let's go, let's go, And
I like that they did it 2 episodes at a time.
Yes.
I thought that was big.
Anytime something's just like an hour, because were they hour episodes? I think so, right?
I think so.
It just, you don't get enough.
Right.
That hour goes so fast, you
right.
know? If they put that out on a box set, I'll definitely buy it. Kobe or LeBron?
This is really, really tough.
These are the tough questions.
This is really tough. I would probably say LeBron. Not for anything basketball related, though. I think what LeBron has built off the court is going to always supersede and overshadow anything that he's ever done off of it. Like building an entire school, sending thousands of kids to, college for free that wouldn't have probably gone to college otherwise. I would say LeBron just for those reasons there. If you're talking strictly basketball, probably Kobe. But I think if you're talking about the person, I would say LeBron.
And when we talked about how important sports is for the youth, LeBron didn't grow up in the same household as a Kobe or a Michael Jordan, two-parent home, loving family, good structure there. Not saying it, LeBron's mom wasn't a great mom or anything, but the structure, and he could have gone other ways, and he didn't.
Right.
Sports,
and I think he did a really good job picking out who he hung out with.
Yeah. But I think, just thinking about what I was saying earlier is I just think like sports are so important for youth. You know what I mean? So, that's a tough one. I loved Kobe, too. But the NWO or D-Generation X.
Ooh. I would say NWO. I think they were the first ones to do it, and I think DX came not too far after, but I think NWO kind of revolutionized pro wrestling.
Yeah, I think they started, because I give a lot of credit to like the change in attitude to ECW because they kind of were doing that, but the NWO was on mainstream TV, coming with attitude. They were like the cool heels that everybody wanted to be like. That had never really been done, So I go DX just because I was always WWF ahead of it.
Yeah.
And but it's tough. They're so.
Yeah, I think too like back then when that first started, internet wasn't really a huge thing. I mean, it was out there, but it wasn't a huge thing. So when you have Scott Hall come in, jump in the barricade, you're like, is he like is he still WWF or is he WWE or is he WCW? Like what is he? And then I guess every few weeks you'd have someone else leave, jump ship, and come over, and then
And when they were so smart about it because they made you feel like WWF is invading WCW.
Yeah.
Which is just a brilliant idea. They did steal it from New Japan. They were doing a similar thing, but it's still, it's just a great idea. More responsible for the success of the New England Patriots, Tom Brady or Bill Belichick?
This is a tough one, too. I mean, I guess we're really going to find out this year, but I would probably lean more towards Belichick, just due to the fact that there was that 1 year that Brady tore his ACL or something. He was hurt, missed the whole year, and Matt Castle went like 11-5.
Sure, they should have made the playoffs. They've won Super Bowls with that record.
Right.
So, all right. Bird or Magic?
Bird. No question.
Oh, all right. Yeah, okay. Would you rather watch TV or watch movies?
I'd probably say watch TV, just due to the fact that if you have a quick half hour, you could watch a quick show.
Yeah.
With a movie, you have to make sure you set the time, set the time aside to watch it. I fall asleep during movies all the time.
Yeah.
It's because I can't. When I decide to watch one, it's late at night and it's past my bedtime. So I usually have to it takes me 2 or 3 times probably to get through it.
No, I totally understand. Last night I was going to watch, is it The King of Staten Island with the guy from SNL there? Why am I blanking on his name? But it's a new Judd Apatow movie.
Yeah.
What's his name? Yeah, it'll come to me later. But I was going to sit down and watch that, and Pete Davidson. And instead I just rewatched another episode of Oz, which is one of my favorite shows. So.
Yeah.
Do you prefer coaching or would you rather be playing? Basketball, that
is. I think I like coaching. I think it's a huge challenge to take a group of kids or players, however you want to say it, and with different abilities, get them to go after one goal, you can set them up for success and you can give them all the tools that they need, but you can't physically go out there and do it for them. So I think with basketball, like it's kind of, even though it's a team sport, like you have a lot of say on what happens. Coaching, you kind of have to adjust, and I think with coaching, it's less about you and it's more about them.
Okay, no, I like that answer. I was a wrestling coach for a little bit, and I loved wrestling. By the time I started coaching, I was kind of removed from it. But I love coaching. I might have enjoyed that more looking back on it.
Yeah.
All right, hardest question in blank versus blank. One goes away completely. It doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
The Miami Heat or the Memorial girls basketball team?
Miami Heat 110 times over 100.
See you later, Heat.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I know how passionate you are about them, and that's great. It's good. Great that you're doing that.
Yeah, thanks.
And how many years is it now?
I'm entering my 5th season.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Greg, I really appreciate you coming on the show. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was great.
I'll have to have you back at some point.
Would love
especially with your Scottie Pippen answer.
Yeah.
But everybody, keep your heads up. Wear your masks. Stay out of trouble. And until next time, let freedom ring.